G'day guys, I've just eventually got around to making myself some spare time. So this is the model that I'm going to be gluing up. This will be for Threadline. I've laid all the components out here on the bench just to work out, just to make sure everything's going to go where I want it to go. I've got the reel seat there, the heat shrink you've seen, and there's the front grip that's going to be glued on there. So I'll just get a little bit more preparation work done, and then I'll be back with you just to show the gluing, etc. I've got the masking tape bushes each end of the spigot on the sand spike, as you can see. Also, I'm not sure whether it's that visible in this, but you can see I've actually quite scored up that sand spike as well, just to give the glue some real adhesive properties when it gets glued in place. Also, I've roughened up the inside of the blank with some sandpaper as well. This nylon is very hard to get to adhere properly to anything, as you can probably understand. But I've had no issues with doing what I'm doing with them, so that should be all good. Also, the reel seat position I've done is 650 millimeters from the bottom of the sand spike to the bottom of the reel seat. That mainly is to allow, the rod's going to be used for a little bit of spinning work as well, so I didn't want it to be tip heavy, so I've sort of balanced it out with the weight of the sand spike and the positioning of the reel seat. They should work out fine, so when I do get into a bit of spinning work, it's not going to be uncomfortable and too tip heavy for me. I've just done a little bit of preparation work on the rear end of the blank where I'm going to be gluing the heat shrink onto. You can see I've just roughened it all up, bit of sandpaper before I put the glue there and glue the heat shrink on. I'm a little bit paranoid about things coming loose, etc., so I just like to make sure that when it's glued in position, it's going to stay there and it's not going to come apart or loosen up is probably the more thing that's going to happen. I've just done the masking tape bushes for the reel seat, as you can see, so that it's a nice snug fit when I glue it into position. Also scored up the blank there a bit as well, just to give the glue something to bond onto. Once again, nothing worse than a reel seat coming loose. Alright guys, I've got the epoxy mixed up. You can see it's fairly a thin epoxy, which is I like to use. It's an Optimum Flow epoxy, so I'll be smearing that across the back of the blank here. So just get that smeared down here. Okay guys, I've got the epoxy all down the rear of the blank now, so I'm just about ready to slide this bit of heat shrink down into position. So I'll do that right now, and obviously all the glue is going to be oozing down inside the heat shrink, which is what I want. As I said before, there's nothing worse than having a grip that comes loose, so it's all going down quite well. As you can see, it's just slipping down there perfectly, and there's got virtually hardly any epoxy oozing out, which is great because it means it's going to be on the inside there of the piece of heat shrink. So I'll just keep slipping that down until we've got it in position. Just keep going down. Okay, so we've got it in position there now. I'll just get a little bit of paper towel and just wipe that off. Okay, now to heat the heat shrink down, you can either use a heat gun or a propane torch. I like to use a propane torch myself. That seems to work well for me, but some of you can also use the heat gun, which works well as well. So now when I do heat this, obviously I'll be working from the thickest point down to the thinnest point, and the epoxy that's down inside of there will want to ooze out down the end, which is okay anyway, and I'll clean that up afterwards. So I'll just get this now and start heating it, and then I'll just gently heat it like so, and then just move gently along the blank. I'm not sure whether you can see what's happening there, but this piece of heat shrink was a really tight fit anyway, so there won't be too much needed to get it to shrink down. As probably a lot of you would be aware, this stuff will virtually shrink down half its size. So if it's 40 mil, it will go down to 20 mil, so the manufacturer recommends. I've never had to do it that much, but I'm sure one day I will. But so yeah, we just heat along here, and I'm not sure whether you can see it shrinking down. I'm not sure whether the camera is showing that at all or not, but I hope it is, because it's all going along here okay. So I'll just keep working my way along, and once this is glued in place, I can guarantee it's not going to go anywhere, that's for sure. Once that epoxy sets. So we'll just keep going along, just moving away along. Once we get down to the other end, you'll see what will happen with all the epoxy oozing out as well, so that's not going to be a problem. At least I know that there's plenty in there anyway, so it's definitely going to hold this grip in place. Now we're getting down a bit thinner here. Now you should be able to see this shrinking down quite nicely actually now, because you can see it shrinking down. And I know a lot of you might be thinking about worrying about melting this stuff or it catching alight or something like that. I've never had that happen, but this is a method that seems to work well for me, so I've kept doing it. Just keep working along here. Hopefully this is showing really well how it's just shrinking down. Just keep moving along, and I'm going deliberately, as I said, from the thickest to the thinnest so that it shrinks down nicely. Okay, we're getting near the end there now. Now, if you're watching, you'll probably see there'll be some epoxy start oozing out, I would say, soon. You move along, we're nearly there. Okay. Let's have a look, it should start to be oozing out in a sec. Okay, we're right. No, we didn't get any oozing out. Well, that's probably a good thing. So, alright, that's done there. If you like. Okay guys, I'm just going to glue the reel seat into position. You would have seen this before. This has been done to death by heaps of other builders as well, so you probably all know the process here. Just plenty of glue in these areas here that are exposed. Once again, I'm using the Optimum Flow epoxy, which I prefer to use, just to make sure that it gets in every nook and cranny of this reel seat and glues it in place and it isn't going to go anywhere. So yeah, it's just a matter of working it down like this. You all would have seen this before, just making sure the epoxy gets down inside of there, over there, and then down into the next area. Just keep working your way down. As you can see, this epoxy is nice and thin and it flows really well, which is great. I think it's got a working time of about half an hour or so, so gives me plenty of time. Okay, we'll just work our way down as well with this one. Down along. Now this heat shrunk down, and I can just get the reel seat over it, so it's going to be a nice fit over the top there like that, so beautiful. Alright, that's it. Okay guys, we're going to get the front grip on now. I've already got the epoxy all over the front area here where the grip is going to finish up. I've also got epoxy inside the grip as well, plenty inside of there. Lubricant, I like to use Terps. I know a lot of you might think that will dissolve the epoxy and whatever, but I've never had any grips come loose using that. I usually mainly use Terps because it doesn't evaporate straight away. I know a lot of guys use methylated spirits, etc., but if you're working in a hot area or hot conditions, it just evaporates too quick. You get halfway down pushing the grip down and it stops and it becomes a real pain, whereas at least there's a little bit of oil based inside the mineral Terps or the product, so that seems to work well. So a little bit of Terps down inside the grip. Give that a good shake up. That down. A bit of the Terps, wipe that in the area where we're going to slip the grip down. Grip down, go over the top there, and I'll just put this down on the ground just to slip it into position, and down we go. Oops. And then that'll just slip down into position like that, and that's it.